Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Congratulations, everyone. You made it to Thursday, which is the new Friday for most, I think. Perfect. Okay, so I'll just say good morning again. I know we've got a number of people registered to join and jump in, so I'm sure over the next few minutes there'll be a few more joining us. Um, but as it's 10 o'clock, keen to get going. So welcome to the Ask the Experts Easter special. Um, I'm sure, as you'll all agree, it's going to be an excellent show. Yeah, sorry about that. It, I had to. It was put in there, but there we go. Um, so, in terms of the agenda this morning, and what we're going to go through in traditional fashion, these sessions, obviously, if you've been to some of them before, are really about us showcasing and giving the wider world a little bit of an insight into the latest capabilities, technologies coming out of the work from Microsoft. As we all know, keeping pace with the change of the technologies and outcomes that come from Microsoft is even difficult for us, believe it or not. So, hard enough for our customers and stakeholders out in the space. So delighted to bring to you again a four-pronged attack with the Axe the Experts team to go through updates and latest information. So in terms of what we're going to cover off, we'll go just do a short introduction just for those of you that it is the first time joining and giving you a bit of a flavour for what Crimson do and how we operate. We'll then drop into the technology sessions, which are almost like your very own 10-minute speed dating sessions with our experts to really go through what some of those technology capabilities are and what the latest releases are going to be. The first we'll start with Dynamics, and then we'll drop into Azure. We'll dive into Power Platform and finish off with the Microsoft 365 capabilities. So, moving swiftly on, if you haven't sort of engaged with Crimson before and are unfamiliar with some of the things that we do, the technology, which is what we're going to talk about today, is one thing, but fundamentally helping organizations and businesses to solve business problems and outcomes with the technology is really what we're about. So whether that's helping you collaborate and communicate better with your colleagues and employees through modern workplace solutions, whether it's building applications to drive colleague efficiency using the Power Platform, or even using capabilities within Azure to keep your workforce, your colleagues and peers, secure and online. The real driver for us and what we get our fun and enjoyment out of is helping you drive your business forward and improve the experience of both your colleagues and customers. So in terms of how we're set up, we're a Microsoft business across business applications, across Microsoft 365, including technologies like SharePoint, Office 365, Dynamics 365, Power Platform, Power BI. And what we try to do is, provide advice and a steer on all those different technology capabilities and helping you either get the most from the business applications with us delivering as part of your team, or failing that, actually upskilling and knowledge transferring into your teams to help you get the most from any existing or future Microsoft investments that you might make. Some of you may know already as well that we also have an IT recruitment arm as part of our business, and are able to help you plug skills gaps and understand and navigate what resources you might need to execute and deliver certain projects, as well as filling those vacancies. Again, another bit of trivia is that we're working at, well, our parent company, in fact, is an organisation called Nash Squared, which you may formerly know more familiarly as Harvey Nash, which gives us a global extension and a wider network of IT resources and capabilities. So again, from our perspective, if there's any curiosity you have around offshoring through Nash Tech, or even just providing the right skills and capabilities into the organisation. We have the Nash Squared brand alongside us to support you with that. In terms of sort of just again to give some of you guys a flavour for the types of organisations we work with, we have a number of strategic sectors which include UK housing, home building. Uh, we actually work very frequently with higher education and universities, and as well as that, bringing in language and understanding from an array of different sectors. So you'll see here that we work with utilities organisations, logistics, councils, and for us, what we're able to do is bring, I think, a diverse set of experiences into the fold to help you not only navigate your sector's industry challenges and how technology can help, but also give a cross-sector experience understanding of actually what challenges are other industries facing, how could we bring best practice and insights to challenge and disrupt in our sector that potentially others haven't done thus far. And that's what we're fundamentally about. And whilst we have a distinct sector focus and can go deep into your industry, we're actually able to collaborate and share out of the box thinking from the different sectors that we work across. So delighted to introduce my four peers across the Crimson team, who are going to walk you through the next, I think, 50 or so minutes of a technology whirlwind. So strap yourself in, enjoy, and if you do have any sort of questions, we've got a dedicated question and answer session at the end. But feel free to use the chat function or probe as we go through, and we'll do our best to pick those questions off as and when they come in. Perfect. So Martin, over to you, I believe, for the Dynamics 365 overview.
Yes, thank you, Jordan. I'm just going to quickly share my screen. Okay, so I decided for this particular session that it would probably be a good idea for us to do a quick overview of managing events using Dynamics 365 marketing. Now, the reason why I've kind of gone with this is that what we've seen in recent months is a lot of interest around event management solutions. And I kind of get the feeling, talking to our customers, that this is in part due to the pandemic and the fact that we're now, as we're coming out of the pandemic, organizations are now going back to organizing face-to-face events again. So whether that's conferences or, this kind of thing, ask the expert type sort of things. But also, as a result of the pandemic, I think there's a bigger appetite now to run online events. And this is meaning that companies that traditionally didn't organize events because they didn't have the resources to be able to do face-to-face are now keen to start running online events, which obviously can be in some ways cheaper, but also can be a lot more effective, as you can do a lot more kind of shorter events. People don't need to travel and so on. So what they're looking for is a tool that can help them to basically manage those events. And that's where something like Dynamics 365 marketing can come in, because unlike a lot of marketing solutions, which tend to rely heavily on third-party managing event solutions like Eventbrite, Cvent, and so on, and then having some kind of integration into your marketing solution, Microsoft made the decision to bring it all into their marketing solution. So what I've done here, as I've only got 10 minutes, and this is a very, very feature-rich aspect of Dynamics marketing. So there's a lot of stuff in here. So what I've done is I've pre-configured an event. So here we've got an open day at a university to try and encourage students to study engineering at the university. So you can see here, I've got a portal which allows for prospective students to be invited to the open day, where they can then come in, they can sign in, and also they can register for this event. What I'm going to do is just quickly run you through the portal experience and then show you how I set all of this up. So the first thing to kind of point out is, because this is a portal experience, we do have out-of-the-box language functionality. So this will change the navigation of the portal into the native language of the person viewing the portal page. And this is all out of the box. You can see we've also got shopping cart type functionality as well, all out of the box. Your events don't have to be chargeable. They can be free, but you still have the concept of a shopping cart. Let's look at the actual event details itself. So you can see I've got some explanatory text here, which tells the viewer a little bit about the event. And then what I've done is I've broken my event down into different sessions. So you can see here we've got a welcome and an opening keynote. And then we've got some simultaneous events that are sort of running in parallel. And they are about mechanical engineering, civil and electrical engineering. We're then going to take a lunch break. And then what we're going to do is have a look at a facilities tour of each of those. And then we're going to end up with a closing session. If I just expand the welcome session here for a minute, what you can then see is I get some detailed information about the actual session. And then I can see information about the speakers here. And you can see these are hyperlinked, so I can click through to the actual speakers. I've also got the ability to put the different sessions into session tracks. So you can see here, if I click onto the session tracks and give it a second to load up, you can see that what we've actually done is created 3 different session tracks. There's a drop down here, and if I click on the drop down, you can see I can flick between those, and each of the session tracks will then have the relevant sessions within it. And finally, we've got information about our speakers. So you can see if I load up this one, so you can see we've got 4 speakers here, and what we can actually do is we can drop into each of these and we can see details about the speaker, but also which of the sessions they're actually going to be responsible for. And then just at the very bottom here, we've actually got some sponsorship as well. So you can see that our open day at the university is being sponsored by 2 pretty well-known Microsoft demo companies. So you can see that's quite a win for the university there. So you can see that's how the page is built out, and I'll show you how I built this page out in a second. The image, I'm just going to draw your attention to this image. This is not the standard image. It's actually a custom image that I loaded up, and then it replaces the out-of-the-box one with the image that I've put in here. What I'm going to do now is register for the event. So you can see when I register for the event, you can see in here, it then gives me a list of all the sessions. And what I can do is I can choose to remove the ones that I'm not interested in. So I'm interested in civil engineering, so I'm just going to remove mechanical and electrical, and then do the same here again, remove mechanical and electrical, and then I can do finish my registration. That should load a page in a second. There we go. So what I'm going to do there is then I won't fill this in because I've done a few of these already. But you can see I've got a first name and a last name and an email address. Now, those are the standard fields that it will ask you as a minimum to supply as part of your registration. And also, you can see here that I can select a pass as well. And you can see that I've got a pass popping up here, so they can select a pass. So what I can do is I can set as many passes as I want available for the event. And then when people register, they can choose a pass. And you can see with our open day, there's no cost associated to that. But also, I've got dietary requirements. And the reason why I've put this in, obviously we're providing lunch, but I just wanted to show you that you can add custom fields to your registration page. So that is where that would actually go in there. I'm just going to discard that and just drop back to the home page for the event. So let me show you how I actually set that up. So what I've done is in Dynamics Marketing, I've got an event record and I've created the event here. So the HE Engineering Open Day, and you can see immediately you get a business process flow, because obviously there's a lot of effort that goes into actually running these events and setting them up. Here I've got some basic event details. There's my registration count here, and it generates the URL for my event. So that's the URL for the event page on the portal. I've got some details here about the event that I'm running in terms of its start time, end time, and then a countdown here as well. I've got some location information here about the event that we're running, but the key bits that I wanted to pick out for you is the agenda. So this is where I would set up my agenda. So you can see here I get a calendar view of it, but if I scroll down, there's all my sessions there. So I put in all the details of all of my sessions in there, and below that I've got my 3 session tracks, and then these are my speakers. So this is where I've put in each of my speakers and what sessions they're actually going to be running. So obviously the speakers appear more than once because these are the speaker sessions, but I can set the speakers up beforehand. And if there's any costs associated with the speaker, then I can put in the costs as well. So you can see there's my my agenda, and then if I go to website and form, so you can see in here, this is where I've got all the details, and that image that I presented on the page, all I did was upload it here, and it will replace the standard page. You've also got things like capture, and you can also do things like create leads from registrations and so on. So that's where somebody's registering and you don't already have their details in the system. And this is the other one I wanted to show you. Remember on the registration page, it had a custom field, special dietary requirements. So all I have to do is put that information in here for me, and it will modify the registration page and add my custom field into the registration page. So I don't need to be a web designer. I don't need to understand it in the HTML, although because it is part of a portal experience, then it will obviously give you the ability to modify the HTML and do all those sorts of clever things should you wish to, but it's not necessary if you're happy to go with the standard layout. And the last thing that I wanted to show you was the registration and attendance. So you can see this is where I set up my passes. So I only put 1 pass in. So you can see this is the number of passes allocated, but at the moment, nobody's actually taken any. But here's the registrations as well. So you've got your registrations down here, and you can see these are all the people that have currently registered. Now, if I open one of these, just open that up. What we also have in here is this is the details of the registration. But if I scroll down, I get a QR code as well. So it supports QR code technology as well. So obviously then when people turn up at the event, they can bring their pass along, which will have the QR code on it, and then they can scan the QR code and they're automatically checked in for the event. So that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour around events management in Dynamics marketing. As I said, we're getting a lot of interest in this at the moment, so that's what prompted me to include it on this session. And with that, I'll hand back to Jordan.
Thanks, Martin. It's a great overview, and to your point, I think there's been a spike of interest. I think the other elements is how deep Microsoft's event marketing capabilities integrate with Microsoft Teams, and the ability to launch virtual online events and campaigns, both, by the way, internal and external. We've had interest from running your own events and engaging with colleagues and customers and external stakeholders. Perfect. Thank you, Martin. And now for the session on Azure. So, Steve, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Jordan. Good morning, everybody. So two main areas that we're looking at this morning, more practical areas really, and ones that we've been working on over the last couple of months. The first one is Azure network topology. So within an Azure design, obviously underpinning the security of Azure is the connectivity. And what we're looking at the screen now is perhaps a standard pattern that might be used in Azure world. So we've got a hub virtual network. This is a connectivity. So everything will be built into there, perhaps firewalls, security, connectivity to third parties, connectivity to back on premise, perhaps if there are data sources. And then from a virtual network perspective, there might be spokes off. So virtual network here for a workload. And as over time, as the Azure environment matures or grows, these can become quite sprawling, lots of hub spokes, etc. So one of the challenges can be, how do you audit or maintain governance around these compared to the design? So if we jump into Azure World, here we are in the Azure portal. And this is a list of virtual networks. Obviously, this is a test environment, so we've only got 6 here. But in a real world environment, you may have many, many virtual networks, and not particularly easy to see how they're connected or what they do. There's probably many environments, you know, obviously have production environments, development, UAT, etc. Looking at the connectivity points here, a common thing to do is to get virtual networks and link them together or peer them together in Azure World. So to check the peerings, you can go into the virtual network, connect on peerings, and then we have 2 peerings there. They're not really that easy to visualize, and you can imagine if we had tens of these or hundreds of these, it's going to be quite challenging to make sure, are we keeping to the design spec or not? So Microsoft have a tool within Azure called the Network Watcher topology. This is the early version of it, virtual networks and how they're linked together. So some value there, but quite difficult to visualize that. This is the new technology topology experience. So it looks a lot cleaner. It's easier to digest from a human form. And we can see how these virtual networks are linked together quite quickly and visually. And we use this in our health check that we offer customers so that we can quite quickly visualize the implementation. You can see we're using multi-region here. So we've got UK South, UK West. We have those peerings, those connections. So we click here, we can quickly see all of the peerings that are in place, which virtual networks. And in this test environment, one thing we have done is we've added a peering that shouldn't be there, because on our production virtual networks, we've got our hub here, the main security boundary between Azure. We've got a single spoke, and they're quite correctly peered together. But somebody has also peered together the dev spoke, UK South, with the production one, perhaps to be able to get to a service. From a security perspective, that's not great, because we've got development talking to production. So just illustrative of this can quite quickly surface that we're keeping to the original designs, and if there have been any changes, we can quite quickly check what they were. There's no cost to this, so if you already have Azure, you can just go in and type topology into your Azure search bar, a couple of clicks, and you can start to visualize. So a really useful tool to use. Secondly, Azure backup, not the most interesting of topics, but really what we've seen as well, it can be the last line of defense sometimes, if in the worst case scenarios, a crypto virus attack, for example. So the security of Azure backup is essential. I've personally been involved after the event of three crypto virus events within Azure. Obviously not a great situation to be in, the adrenaline is there. But in these situations, we were able to assist the customer get the service back very quickly within hours from Azure backup. If there was a targeted attack, though, a malicious actor, and the backups had been removed, then obviously that would be quite a severe incident. So what Microsoft are doing is they're continually enhancing the backup solution with added security. So two areas of security. One is immutable backups. Does what it says on the tin of, you can go into your backup and select that they are non-destructible. So you can keep your backups for a period of time, and you can ensure you can actually tick an option that says no deleting allowed. They are immutable, so therefore there's no destruction of them. There's again no cost to implementing these. It's a relatively simple implementation with a little bit of planning. So if you're using Azure Backup, highly recommend considering this option. Secondary, again within security of Azure Backup, there's a later feature called Resource Guard. One of the issues can be there's a backup admin that administers backups, and that backup admin traditionally has roles where they can change the retention period of backups, they can delete backups, remove settings, etc. If that backup admin was compromised by a malicious actor, then you potentially have lost that backup resource. So Microsoft have got, it's like a turnkey, I suppose, where you've got to the nuclear warhead, you've got two keys that you have to turn. So Resource Guard is really this security admin. And this security admin in Azure world, there are things, tenancies, so very distinct structures within Azure. This security admin can sit within another tenancy, so it's not within your day-to-day one. It's a locked down tenancy. And within the implementation, it can be that the security admin has to authorize certain changes that are made by the backup admin. Again, minimal cost to this, and with a small amount of design, quite light implementation. So if you guys are using Azure Backup, it's definitely worthwhile just reviewing the security around that with the new features in. Finally, from me, I know my colleagues are speaking about Copilot. It's a coming soon within the Azure space. Microsoft have announced the Copilot functionality within Microsoft Security. So you can imagine the advantage of having that technology within the security world with so many moving pieces, so much data to potentially wade through. So we're getting our hands on that, and hopefully we'll have that soon in the upcoming Ask the Experts Azure section. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff to come, I think, from the Copilot piece. I think a lot of us are looking at each other going, yeah, there's no way it's going to take over our jobs yet. Gulp. No, there's definitely still a place, I think, for partners and like-minded peers from our customers as well. But no, really appreciate you walking us through that, Steve. And yeah, over to you, Ollie, for the Power Platform update.
That's brilliant. Cheers. Thanks, guys. Can you guys all see my screen? Has that come through? Brilliant. Okay, great. So what I'm going to talk through today is a couple of things on the Power Platform. Annoyingly, Copilot is still in preview. So there's lots and lots of things that I would love to show you, but getting access to the actual trials and the previews is a bit difficult. The good news is there's loads of stuff that have happened in the new wave release that's just gone on, and I'd like to take you through a couple of good points around that. So the first thing is, if you can see my screen, I'm in Power App, so the Maker portal, and I'm in a table that I've created called the donation table. And what I want to show you here is a functionality called is called formula columns. So formula columns is the newest venture for the low-code, no-code language called PowerFX. Now, if any of you guys are using Canvas apps or doing some elements in Power Automate, you might be familiar with PowerFX. It's our low-code language that is prolific around the Power Platform. Now, the first venture into this PowerFX columns, it was actually within Dynamics or Dataverse for Teams. So Dataverse for Teams is sort of like the lightweight version of this, but they've actually rolled this now into the full Dataverse functionality. So what I'm going to do is show you sort of how useful PowerFX can be in creating formula columns. So within the donation table, this is just a very straightforward donation table where I'm giving it a name, I'm specifying a monthly amount, the number of months somebody's going to be donating, and then what I've done is created a total donation amount field, which is a calculated field. The old school way would be calculated fields. The new school way would be PowerFX formula, so a formula field. So what does that look like? I will just quickly go into total donation. If I can find it. total donation amount. And what you see here is that just like a normal field, you've got this formula here. And that's a pretty straightforward formula. Monthly amount times the number of months gives us a total donation amount. Easy. So it becomes very, very useful if you start thinking about all of the things that you want to do within your tables that may not be client-side related, so not anything on a form that's very specific, like business rules and things like that, but actually some back-end sort of calculated calculations using PowerFX. So that's a simple one. I thought, okay, well, how far can we go with this? So what I did was thought about, okay, well, total donation amount is great, so that I can estimate, what exactly the donation is going to be at the end of this. But actually, I want to know the donation amount now. So, I want the donation to date. So that's a really interesting one. So I was like, how am I going to push that in a PowerFX formula rather than thinking about it and reading some methods and trying to do that? I actually just asked ChatGPT, and funnily enough, I just asked it, can you write a PowerFX function that calculates the total amount of donations to date from a set of fields that I already have in there, which is the start date, number of months, and monthly donation amounts. And surely enough, straight away, it just gives me that response and actually posts the code that I can actually use. Now you can see here, it's doing a date diff with the start date, minus today and giving in the monthly amount, and then just times the actual monthly amount by the monthly donation amount. Just brilliant. That's exactly what I wanted. So I can actually copy that and then push that into a new field. So if I create a new column and I create it as total to date and specify this as a formula, and if I go ahead, I did copy that, didn't I? If I go ahead and copy that, I can use that. Now, the first thing to notice is that, yes, I didn't do any of the pre-validation stuff. I just don't quite have time to rechange the equation. But obviously, if the total amount, the date different was, the date was in the past, then you would just calculate total number of months times the monthly amount. But I'm just going to go into this part. So I've copied the formula in, but it doesn't understand the start date. That's fair enough, because what I need to do is find the donation start date. So it also has sort of the predictive IntelliSense that you would expect in any sort of coding area. So I'm actually looking for the donation start date. Today is an interesting one because of some of the limitations or some of the locale elements around Dataverse. Sometimes you have to be quite specific around what method calls you do in terms of date time. Sometimes it gets a bit funny with the formula. So today is not a great one. We actually do UTC now. And then in months, again, it doesn't quite do it that well. So you would actually need to specify the actual the timestamp in months. So you would actually be able to go ahead and do that. So I've already done that column. So I'm just going to close that round, and what I actually called it was total received to date. And what you can see here is UTC now and the total number of months. I actually think it was that was the previous one. The value today is the unit time in months and then the monthly amount. So that is actually the formula that I wanted to use. And then if I go ahead and go back to the table in my preview, I can then go ahead and find that total value today. And what you will be able to see is based on the number of the monthly amount, the number of months, it will show me my total, but total value today is 80. So it's just done that formula. Fantastic. So really, really quickly, we can use PowerFX formulas to be embedded in your tables, which is really, really great. Another thing I wanted to take you through today was actually the newest element around virtual tables. Now, for those of you that sort of know around virtual tables and have been around the Power Platform for a while, this isn't new, but what is new is the wizard that allows us to very, very quickly create virtual tables without going through all of the detail around setting up the all of the specific fields and the values within your sort of virtual entity within the Power Platform. It will actually wizard you through, as long as you've got a connection and you can point to some certain data sources, it will pull through the information. Then you have the ability to tweak and change things and then publish it. So I want to take you through that today using one of my SharePoint lists called Demo List. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new table from external data. And what it does is it shows me a wizard on this right-hand side that will take me through all of the elements. So I'm going to go through SharePoint today, but you can do SQL Server. Those are the only two at the moment that have this new wizard rollout. I'm expecting a lot more connections to come through in the next releases, so that it's not just SharePoint and SQL. There'll be loads of other connections that you can use to expose your external data within Dataverse. But I'm going to go ahead and choose and find my SharePoint list. So I'm going to specify the SharePoint URL. So I'm in consultancy, so I'm going to go and find my SharePoint lists. And as you can see, my demo list is there. If I click on next, what this will do now is it's found the connection to SharePoint. It knows the URL and it knows the specific SharePoint list. It's going to read and pull back all of the data, metadata that I need to understand. And already I can see that it's come up with the display name, the plural name, and all of the fields that I have. All of the columns of the list I have is going to create fields for me. One thing to point out is that the schema name comes from your solution. So this is solution aware. So Crimson underscore comes from the publisher I'm using for this solution. So be very careful around when you're creating virtual tables from external data using this wizard. You need to be inside the solution to create the tables. But as you can see, it's going to create all of these things. This looks okay to me. Obviously, you can change the display name and the plural name. Say if you've got a SharePoint list that just says list of contacts, you don't want contacts as your display name for your entity or for your table within Dynamics in the Power Platform, because you've already got contacts in there. So you need to be a little bit smart about what you can call it. And then it will just give you a bit of a summary, and then you can finish that. I've obviously already done this virtual table. As you can see in the background, I've got this demo list. Now that's great. I now have the ability to look at SharePoint list information directly through Dataverse. But what's really cool is I actually want to expose that virtual table in Power Pages and actually push that onto a page so that somebody can actually enter in some information that will directly write through the Dataverse onto my SharePoint list through Power Pages. So in here, I've got, I'm in Power Pages now, and I'm looking at my tables, and I've got that demo list table. I've created a new form. So all I need to do now, let's just quickly look at this form. This will load, and all I'm doing is specifying the fields that I want people to populate. So a very straightforward form that looks a little bit like this, hopefully, once it loads. And what I want to do is actually put this onto a page, onto my Power Pages. So I'm going to go ahead and look at my pages. I'm going to put it on sub page 1. So I might relabel this, create new item. I could spell. And then what I could do is add in the form here, or add in a new section and add in a form, and I can go ahead and do a new form, and it would be demo list. So find my demo list table and then select the form, a new item form. I've already created it before, so I've just created it again. And what you'll see there is very, very quickly, I now have a Power Pages page that actually has a form that I am able to then enter data in right through Dataverse into your SharePoint list straight away. There are obviously some permissions you need to set and do a couple more things, but just showing the power of virtual entities, the wizard, I've literally done all of this without any code and it really can be that simple to start exposing external data, but also actually being able to enter that information from an end user perspective, enter that information from your website. So really powerful stuff. I know I'm going slightly over. I've just got one more thing to show you. When we look at virtual agents, again, another element of AI and ChatGPT is being able to create a chatbot. What you can actually do now is you can specify your website name. So for example, I've chosen Crimson. So within creating a chatbot, one of the hardest things about creating a chatbot is all of the different type of topics you have to set up, all of the different areas you need to set up. Well, with the new features, all you need to do is within the AI capabilities, specify your website, and what ChatGPT will do, or GPT, OpenAI GPT will do, it will trawl through your website, understand what's happening on your website, and then be able to suggest topics that you haven't specifically entered in the topics area. So I've just kept this completely blank, and what I can do is I can go in and test this and say, can you show me the page for customer white papers? And what it will do is it will trawl through the website and know that there's no topic here that we've defined. It's automatically said, well, here's a link to resources page with customer white papers. And then it will take me directly to the right page. So if you had ChatGPT, it can literally take you through to the right places. And that's just a page. If I said, where are the details of Paragon? It also will show me a couple of suggested pages if there isn't a Paragon page, which there isn't at the moment. Oh, there already is. Oh, there is actually a page. So it goes on there and talks about transformation business consultancy, where we're talking about Paragon services. So again, ChatGPT, literally the GPT engine will be able to create a virtual chatbot for you without writing any of the topics. So really cool stuff. I know I've gone over, so I'm gonna be quiet now and get back to it. But thanks very much, guys.
No, thanks, Ollie. Some really interesting updates there, and yeah, the ChatGPT wagon keeps on rolling down the hill. So thanks for sharing that. Kieran, over to you for the last session on the Microsoft 365 update stuff, which I think is going to talk a little bit more about AI and Copilot. So over to you.
Indeed, yeah. Thanks, Jordan. Can you see my screen okay? Lovely,
Perfect.
thanks. So picking up on Ollie, what Ollie's been talking about there with Copilot, with ChatGPT. So it's quite an exciting development. Microsoft have bought OpenAI and are embedding that artificial intelligence capability within Microsoft Office 365. It's not live yet in the UK, but I'm thinking within 6 months or so, it should be available to us. But what I want to talk about today is what is available to us within the Microsoft Office 365 world. I work within, I head up the modern workplace practice, and what we use is SharePoint and Teams, and build upon those platforms to enhance people's productivity, perhaps using things like Power Platform, Power Automate, Power Apps, etc. But one of the new, relatively new areas is Microsoft Viva. What is Viva? So Viva is a suite of tools. There are 5 areas within Viva at the moment. Viva Connections, you might know that as Yammer. Viva Insights, all about employee well-being, and you might see in your Outlook, for example, suggestions for focus time, things like that. Viva Learning, all about education. Viva Goals, so setting goals for your employees. And finally, Viva Topics, which is what I want to concentrate on today. And that's all about trying to use all of the content that you've got within your Office 365 environment, hopefully stored within SharePoint. That's the first start. Get all your content within SharePoint, and if it's not, we can help with that. One of our key areas that we work on is SharePoint migrations, which we'll come to later on. So Viva Topics uses all of that information that you as an individual have got access to. So it's secure. It's not going to start looking and finding topics of interest that you don't have access to. And it's using all of that information and pushing to you suggestions of topics that you might find useful in your work. So I'm going to go and show you how you can set that up briefly, and also what the user experience is like. So it's to overcome some of the typical challenges that we've got in our everyday lives, where we're finding it difficult to find information, perhaps because there's just so much redundant, obsolete, or trivial data, so ROT for short. And to help with that, I really suggest thinking about retention. Again, that's something that that Crimson can help with. But Viva Topics also help with siloed information. So where you've got information just in one area and not known about by other people within the organization. So for example, with Crimson, we've got the modern workplace practice, we've got the Azure practice, we've got Dynamics practice. You could imagine that all of those areas have got siloed information, and we want to break those boundaries. And finally, knowledge drain. So people leaving the organization, how do we make sure that when they leave, we don't lose all of that information with them, with when they leave? So Viva Topics tries to overcome all of these things, and I think helps to improve productivity and innovation, which I think are two of the biggest challenges that we've got within the UK enterprise sector today. So before embarking on rolling out Viva Topics, thinking about the adoption is really critical. Have a think about what content do you want to appear for your users? How will you categorize your topics? Are you going to base your topics on client? Are you going to categorize them based on project type? Or are you going to categorize them on, for our case, technology? And that's what I've decided to use, technology, mainly. But you'll also see that there are some clients and other things as well. Who will see topic cards and highlights, and which topics are expected? So these are things that are really worth looking at thinking about beforehand, and running a trial. So you can request from Microsoft a 60-day Viva Topics trial, and I thoroughly recommend doing that. And we can definitely help set this up. So the setup, there's a few prerequisites. You need to go and set up the knowledge manager role within Azure for the people that are going to set this up for you. Once you've requested the trial within the Microsoft 365 Admin Center under Setup, you can see at the bottom this highlighted area, Connect People to Knowledge with Viva Topics. And clicking on that starts the whole setup procedure. And it's relatively straightforward on the face of it, but there is a lot to be thought about as you go through topic discovery, topic visibility, the permissions, and finally looking at the topic center. So you can see here it says that it may take up to 2 weeks for content to appear. Well, I was expecting 2 weeks later the content to appear within the topic center, but actually 2 days later it appeared, which is quite impressive. So I'll do a bit of a live demo if we've got time, but flicking through the slides that I've got pre-prepared, this is what the topic center looks like. So it's already suggesting, without me having to do anything at all, topics that might be of interest to me and people in my organization. I can go and choose the yes, I want to be listed on this topic because it's relevant to me, and it performs a nice little graphic there, or actually no, remove me, and it will then carry on looking, the AI will carry on looking through the content of knowledge that I've got access to for more relevant topics. As a knowledge manager, you've got access to the topic center, and this is where the AI is trawling through all the information within SharePoint for information that it thinks might be relevant. You've got a topic score that's relevant to you as an individual, an organization topic score, which is relevant to the whole organization, and then the number of impressions, which is how many times people have viewed that particular topic. So you can see that I took this screenshot very soon after I set up Viva Topics. So the AI engine is going through, looking through that body of information and suggesting topics. But if there are topics that you think haven't been suggested, you can go and create your own. So this is me going in and creating a new topic on data retention policy. I can give it alternative names, retention, purview, which is the area within Microsoft 365 that you use to set up data retention policy, and a short description. All of this information is what's going to appear to your users when they start looking in SharePoint, either looking through the search or looking through web pages. And areas that have the words data retention policy will be highlighted. They can click on that and see this topic page. Scrolling down through the topic page, you can, as a knowledge editor, as a knowledge manager, edit the different types. So for categorization, pin people who are subject matter experts, and scrolling down, pin files and pages. So this is the AI bot suggesting relevant files and pages for the topic of interest, in this case, data retention policy. And right at the end is this rather nice graphic here to show you how topics are related to each other. So each of these nodes is a topic: contact tracing, data retention policy, SharePoint, Power Apps, etc. So you can see that here that data retention policy was linked to our client, London Borough of Bromley, through the technology of SharePoint. As I mentioned before, when you do a search through SharePoint, you will get Viva topics coming up. So this is a search for one of our clients, Aston. And similarly, when you are browsing through a web page, you can see here that there are certain areas highlighted. So Office 365, Power Apps, Power Automate, etc. And if I click on Power Apps, I will get the hover over, the little card appearing. I can click on Power Apps and see a page all about that topic. So setting this up, it's really worth thinking up front about how you're going to start to categorize your topics. You need licenses for your users that you apply through the Office 365 Admin Center, but in particular, you need to decide who are going to be your knowledge managers and knowledge contributors. And those are roles that you set up within Azure. Within the configuration of Viva itself, you choose your topic viewers, and you can restrict those to particular security groups if you have them. And then you need to define your topic sources. So particular SharePoint sites or all SharePoint sites, restrict them by people if you want to, restrict them based on sensitivity labels if you're using them as well. And you can even upload names at the topic areas with a CSV file as well. You can use the term store for metadata within SharePoint. And then very finally, just to give you an idea of the costs, and this is only for a copy I took of the public information for enterprise customers. So it might well be different if you're a government in the government sector or in the education sector. But you can buy Viva topics here at £3.30 a month, or the whole Viva suite at £7.40. Remember, Viva Connections is included in your enterprise plan. So with that, I think I'll head back to Jordan. Back to you, Jordan.
Thanks, Kieran. That's great. Yeah, some really sort of interesting AI capabilities there, and I think we've seen a massive interest in the Viva capabilities to help really kind of take colleague interaction, colleague experience into that next level, and really bring through the AI and or make use of AI in working practical senses. So some really interesting features there, mate. Thank you very much. So yeah, just with sort of the last few minutes that we've got in the session, we take the opportunity to give you guys access to the team to ask a few questions. Anthony, you've been kindly patient enough to wait. So there was a question for Ollie as it came through on the PowerFX column. Do they support roll-ups? Thinking this would be a neat way to get instant roll-up calcs.
Yeah, really good question, Anthony. At the moment, it's a little bit limited in terms of the PowerFX functions that you can use with the formula columns. The intention absolutely is that this is going to come along. So not yet, but I expect this to come soon. And you're dead right. I think one of the biggest limitations that we find is around those roll-up columns within Dataverse is that yeah, you either have to click the recalculate button when you're on the form, or it does it sort of, you can specify it every 15 minutes. So that's not great. It's not a great experience, and ideally we want to have that real time. With the formula columns, I think that will be a possibility. We've just got to wait, be a little bit more patient with this one, wait for those functions to come on, and yeah, absolutely, we then should be able to do formulas that look down to sort of roll up fields, so calculate sub entity calculation should be fine.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ollie.
Thanks, Anthony, for the question. Just one before we go. It's those to the audience that are still here. If you could kindly scan in the QR codes, give us some feedback as to what you thought about the event, but also importantly, what you might want to see in the upcoming events. These events really are for you and for us to kind of give you the latest updates from the technology world that is Microsoft, and provide real case scenarios. So if there's something that you've heard or that you'd really like to get involved with, do let us know and scan the QR code and fill in. As well as scanning it to follow us on the LinkedIn page so you don't miss any of the events updates, and securing an Ask the Experts season ticket. Guys, just one question I had, across the piece is, fast forward. I know all of you have touched upon certain elements of AI and capability. Fast forward 12 months. What does AI, how deeply embedded is AI in all the applications you guys have shown, and what are some of the salient things that we'll see both Microsoft giving the technologies and us out? Happy for any of you to pick that off.
I can go. So Azure is a smaller part of the Microsoft stack, but it's interesting that the functionality is within Azure as well, and that it's cross technology, isn't it, in the Microsoft stack, as we've seen. I think one of the things I've seen is learning, though, the learning element. One of the examples was there in the security responses, there's a Windows 9 listed. So it's very much a flavor of early days learning, utilizing the technology, it being really useful, but also the customer has taken on some responsibility of assessing the results as well.
Yeah, and Steve, just on that point with Azure, how much do you see Copilot over the next 12, 24 months? Do you see AI playing the role of helping customers and organizations optimize rather than develop, or do you think it could be a bit of both?
I think probably a bit of both. Obviously, you could say develop, I want to deploy this, and you can very quickly get a strong pattern of technology. It's well trod. I think really interestingly, because with any technology, it can sprawl quickly. So it's getting the data back quickly and in a visual way or in an efficient way. So I think it can only be beneficial really for the wealth of data that we have to contend with within most environments. To get that human element back quickly can be useful. I'm looking forward to typing in, do an Azure assessment, and I just get the whole written document back.
Yeah. No, Matt's got a great point there. Ideally, teams should have a AI to detect QR code and translate a link without using your phone. Like it. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah,
Perfect.
but from Microsoft's perspective, on the MBAS, so the Microsoft Business Application event that happened a couple of days ago, I think it was Charles Lamana or somebody of that ilk was saying that by 2026, the expectation is that 85% of sort of enterprises will combine the human experience and AI to be at least 25% more productive in everything that they do. So it is really a bit of a revolution.
Yeah, I think even a good example that I've seen, just a use case, completely non necessarily what would I say, business optimization, but it's down to even some of the sub processes of things that organizations do. I saw someone post earlier today a Microsoft Copilot use case, an AI use case, where the headshots of the organizations, so they'd get people to send their own headshots in within a varying degree of quality, and taken those and put their corporate logos and corporate clothing on without actually physically having to go and spend a load of money and coordinate headshots, which I know is the bane of Emily's life on the call. So, you know, it really is some micro use cases across, as well as some of the harder hitting stuff which you guys have shown today. Some real sort of optimization and quick win stuff that I think it's going to help with. And I think more importantly, some of the skills and the way that we operate, you know, it's not going to replace us, but we're going to redefine some of the qualities and skill sets and harnessing some of that. And our roles will be slightly different. You know, we've already seen that with the movement of low code, no code. Yeah, interesting times. Kieran, Martin, anything more for you guys to add?
Just in one piece of advice, I would recommend people go and have a look at the Copilot link, which I'll send through now, and the video with that. But we know Copilot isn't available yet, but embedded within Edge, the browser, if you sign in with an Outlook, a private Outlook.com account, I'll just share it now, but you can access ChatGPT-like capability and have Viva and have it compose questions and answers for you. So you can see here I've put in, how can Viva topics benefit my organization? Choose the tone of the response, paragraph, etc., and it generates a response for you at the bottom. It's really pretty impressive. And then you've got other chat and insight options alongside as well. It's really good.
Thanks, Kieran. Maybe I should have used that at the start to pick my Easter jokes a little bit more carefully. There you go. And Martin's nodding.
Yeah, just one thing to add from me on an AI side. I mean, we are starting to see sort of AI functionality now coming into Dynamics marketing. So with things like defining segments, how often those segments are refreshed, and so on. So yeah, so definitely has an impact on Dynamics marketing.
Yeah, agreed, Martin. I think some of the stuff that our customers have seen around also how AI is making suggestive recommendations as part of campaign automation. So based on sort of interaction points, I think it's going to be really key for customers to be able to optimize that marketing journey, and, you know, things that we with the human eye might not see as the process runs, AI might pick up and might help intervene to make the experience more personalized. Perfect. Well, guys, we've overrun by 2 minutes. Thank you so much for giving the time to share with our audience and showcase some of the latest and greatest capabilities. We'll be back again. Thank you, everyone who joined. Hope you have a fantastic Easter weekend, and we look forward to seeing you in probably about 8 weeks' time. We'll share the recording out as well. If you want to share it, please do share with your colleagues and continue to grow this session. And as I said before, if you've got any things that you want us to drill into and focus on, let us know. But that's it from us. Thank you, everyone, and take care. Cheers.
Good all. Bye.
Bye-bye.